Two different bikes, two different generations. Let's compare the two. Now, before anybody gets their panties in a bunch, yes, I know one bike is a race bike and one is a freestyle bike. But let's think about something here. In the early 80s, you weren't thinking about a freestyle bike, you were thinking about a race bike. And so, let's compare the two. First thing that a lot of people notice about old school BMX bikes is they say, wow, the seat was so high. What was that for? Well, to be honest with you, I really don't have a great answer. The frames were shorter, so that's one thing. You were able to get behind it easier, and that's just the way that they rode the bikes. The seats were made out of plastic for weight reduction. They usually had holes in them. The seats were also railed, compared to modern bikes where the seats are on pivotal seat posts. So let's get to the modern bike here. Like I said earlier, most of them are pivotal seats. Matter of fact, that's what all new bikes come with. The seats are ran lower because of the way that we do our tricks now. Besides that, it's overall just a fad. Alright, let's look at the front end setup. First thing you're going to notice on an old school BMX bike is that there's both front and rear brakes. That's something that you rarely see on a new BMX bikes. The only time that they're riding brakes on new BMX bikes is when they're doing dirt jumps. Then you'll occasionally see a rear brake. So why did old school BMX bikes run brakes? Well, rear one, obviously to stop. Front one, front pogos. That's just one of the many reasons to run a front brake. And let's have a comparison now of brakes on a new BMX bike. Yeah, we don't have any. You see, we could, but gyros add more weight, and brakes add more weight, and you just kind of have better control of your bike, or you learn how to handle it better when you don't have brakes. It's hard to explain unless you do it. Modern bikes also have a different type of headset, and fork. Kind of goes together. Well, they're both 1 1/8, and the fork is threadless, and you have an integrated headset, and your stem is also a 1 1/8 clamp stem. Compare that to an old school BMX bike, and you have a 1-inch quill stem, a threaded fork, and a threaded headset. Most new school BMX bikes have got plastic pedals, and I don't really know the reason for it, but that's what it is. Yes, plastic pedals also existed 30 years ago, but odds are you probably had some pedals with traps if you were riding an old school BMX bike. Compare an old school BMX bike to a new school BMX bike and you'll notice that the grips are different too. Old school BMX bikes usually had grips with flanges. Come down to a new school BMX bike and you'll realize that they removed one piece of rubber. That was the flange. Alright, let's talk about the drivetrain now. Old school BMX bikes had a 44:16 ratio on the usual, and that was paired up to a free coaster, a coaster brake, or a free wheel. Come down to the tiny spinner on a new BMX bike, and you got a 25:9 ratio paired up to a cassette or a free coaster. And with time, everything changes. And if you look at the wheels on a new school BMX bike, you'll notice one thing. Odds are, well, it's not a mag. Everything is spoke these days. Nobody runs mags anymore. Compared to an old school BMX bike, and a lot of them had mags. Skyway Tough wheels were very popular. They were strong. And at the time, spoked wheels were pretty frail. If you think it's going to end yet, nope, not yet. Bottom brackets changed too. Modern BMX bikes have got a mid-bottom bracket, which is smaller than the old school American bottom bracket. Sealed bottom brackets were a thing back then, but they were just a hair more expensive. Let's now talk about the frames. On an old school BMX bike, your top tube usually measured about 18.5 inches. On old school BMX bikes, you usually see pads, and the reason for that, they were mandatory by tracks. New school BMX bikes, well, they're a little bit longer. They think of the taller rider in mind. The top tube on a modern BMX bike runs from 20.5 inches to 21 inches. Also known as the non-existent pads. Nobody really uses them anymore. tires have changed too. On a new School BMX bike, you're running both 2.4 tires. They're pretty wide. On an old School BMX bike, you're running about a 2.125 in the front and a 1.75 in the rear. Why? Well, front tire clears the way. That's how the old school did it. Well, I know I missed a lot of stuff, and I'm going to let you guys bash that all out in the comments. So what do you guys think is better? Old School BMX bikes or new School BMX bikes? I'd love to hear it. If you guys like this type of content, like the video. If you want to see more of this, subscribe to the channel.